right, we're here at the SEMA Show 2021, and I'm here with
Ivan Iler
and Luis Varela-Rico.
And I wanted to sit down with these guys and get their thoughts on the show. Now, you're a veteran of SEMA.
I live here in Las Vegas.
Right on.
I've been here several times. And just had the opportunity to bring my friend Ivan down just to show him how awesome the show is.
Heck yeah.
So here we are.
It's definitely a cool show. Lots of inspiration, lots of, it's a great networking show. Like, you just meet people from all walks of life. Even though it's an automotive thing, there's something for everyone here. Like, every little, like, if you can think of a sub-community, motorized sub-community, it is here in this building, and obviously the fabrication is a huge part of it too. So what are your thoughts being new to this? What's your first impressions?
It's great. It's amazing the way that they brought all of it together. The way that they brought all these different walks of life when it comes to cars in general. Like, it doesn't matter if you're into trophy trucks. It doesn't matter if you're into like rat rod type stuff. It's here. Like, it's all been here, and it's just a really. I mean, I've heard of SEMA just because it's the show.
It is.
And then to be here and see it, it's like, yeah, it's the show.
Yeah, it is for sure.
Really
And this is a scaled down year, and it's still crazy.
Yeah.
Like, FabTech was cool, but it was way chill. This is it's still an event. It's still a pretty big deal.
Yeah. We haven't even seen the whole thing yet. We've been here all day.
Yeah, well, and like on a regular year, you could not see the whole thing. You could walk the show the entire week and not see the whole thing.
Yeah.
So this is almost like it's a nice introduction to SEMA.
All right.
This for sure. So let me give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you do.
I'm a metal sculptor out of Michigan. I used to build motorcycles.
Okay.
I ran hammer in hand for years. I've been there since 2009. And I always did sculptures on the side, and then, the pandemic hit, and I couldn't afford to keep everybody on, so I just let everybody else find jobs and kind of leaned into just doing the artwork, and it's been going great. Actually, things have really been taking off for me.
Right, that's awesome. That's cool when you make that jump, and it kind of you're that gratification of, okay, this could be.
I can do this,
yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's but it's stressful, right?
For sure, yeah. I mean, you never know. It's just one of those things. Anytime, even running my own business, building motorcycles, still, it's just one of those things where it's like, if I don't do this right, then I'm done. It's not like a job where you can just leave it at work at the end of the day.
Right, you can't punch the card and be done with it.
But I'm not really a stressed out kind of guy, so it's all good.
Very cool. So, how about what's your background?
Oh, my background is basically I'm a flunky art student that dropped out. Loved cars, which is why I'm into metal.
Okay.
When I came out of high school, I was really excited about ceramics, but I was really excited about cars too. And watching all these like fabrication shows, I was like, man, that metal stuff looks really cool. So I kind of just jumped in, head first into metal, and here I am now. I've got a shop that just does pretty much just artwork out of metal. And
right on.
I go after public art contracts, and I do a lot of stuff down the city here in Las Vegas.
Does any of the ceramic stuff kind of leak its way into your other artwork?
Absolutely. There's a lot of cross-pollination. I've been making metal molds to make ceramics in.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I really don't want to be known just as a metal guy, because I'm tooled up for metal, but I'm open to anything that I think I can use in a creative way.
Yeah, it's a big world out there, and that's one of the things that the information age has really allowed a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life to connect, and we don't have to be specialized anymore. Like, you don't have to just be there's a TED Talk somebody did, and she was like, why can't I be a violinist and make shoes and do, like,
why not?
It's an like, whatever your interest is. Life is way too short to get stuck doing something you don't want to be doing, and there are so many opportunities out there to get in to do different things, and you never know what that thing is going to be that kind of grabs onto you. But it doesn't have to be one thing anymore. You can do such a diverse.
Yeah, you can switch gears. I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, it just depends how much time you have in the day, and how much time you have to dedicate to whatever you're doing. But yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, like the same thing with the metal work that I do. Like, I also love oil painting. I actually just recently sold one. It's
really
the same thing. You just do whatever you want to do. And I mean, I got into leather work because of the motorcycles, because I wanted to make seats. Next thing I know, I'm fixing coach purses, and stuff. So you never know what's going to walk through the door.
Do everything.
Just do everything, yeah.
There's I was visiting a friend out in California. There's this great bookstore in Burbank, and it's all like automotive, aircraft, but there's like old books too. And I came across this aircraft maintenance book from like the 1940s, and those guys had to be able to do everything. So that in that book, there's leather working, there's canvas, sewing, there's the welding, brazing, like everything is in this.
I gotta see this book.
Yeah, I'll send you some pictures of it.
Oh, yeah.
But those guys had to do everything because they didn't have like this shop that specializes in this over there, or if you're flying, and I mean they, back in the day they crashed planes all the time, so they're in a field and they got to figure out how to get it going again.
Yeah.
So they had to know like every little part of that, and that's, I don't know, that's something that got, I think, lost for a little while, but we're rediscovering it. Even if it's in a modern way, being able to do. It's like, look at rapid prototyping, how much that's changed fabrication.
Yeah, it has to.
A lot of the work I do is in CAD.
Okay.
In my opinion, there's a lot of rapid prototyping in CAD because
Yes.
you're able to problem solve virtually before you actually go to produce parts.
Yeah.
And there's still always like some, after you produce something, there's still always something that you need to massage. And I think that rapid prototyping virtually, speeds up a lot of
Saves
the
so much time and money.
money, time, material, all of the above. Absolutely.
So do you do a lot of, like when you do your art, you design it first and...
I used to, another little part of my backstory, I used to be totally against using any sort of technology. I was like, I'm going to use a grinder and a hammer and a welder. And there was people like, hey man, you need to like look at this CAD stuff. It's really cool. I was like, yeah, I don't have time. And eventually I got into some YouTube videos and got like a free version of some software. And I was like, this is really interesting. And what promoted me to do that was I have kind of a machine mentor that ran a water jet, and he was like, he's cutting all my parts and doing my drawings for me. He's like, why don't you do your drawings? And then he's like, why don't you just buy a plasma? And then next I know, I'm like, deconstructing 3D images on CAD, flattening them out, and then cutting them on my own machine. And that's pretty much where I'm at now. So that's kind of how I progress.
It's kind of like an addiction, like a junkie. Like, you just got to keep feeding yourself more ways to do things.
It's interesting. It's just really interesting. I think, and specifically about art, people say, everything's been done. Well, I disagree with that because I think technology gives us the opportunity to do something that's fresh.
For sure.
Like tube lasers. To me, I found out about tube lasers and I'm like, oh my God, that's a cool tech. I can do some crazy art with tube lasers. So yeah, I love technology for it. It's the new kind of place to go to do things and fresh.
How much have you mixed technology in with what you do?
None.
Yeah.
That's
what I love though.
I'm not good with, I'm not lying. I'm not good with computers. I have a CNC table. I've had a CNC plasma cutting table for years, but I recently got a new one, a fast cut, which is amazing. The thing's got a freaking Xbox controller. It's like what? But
feels like cheating.
But I mean, at the same, no, it's not that. It's not that. It's really handy for some things. Because like, let's say that head, I made that head for the capo, was big head with a bunch of ears coming out of it, big public sculpture. I had to, like me and my friend Ian, we had to make that whole buck by drawing it out with a Sharpie layer by layer and hand cutting it all out and putting all that together. We didn't use any computers for that piece at all. And having that table, if we would have been able to do that, we would have had it done in a day instead of a week. And that's just that one piece. That whole sculpture took me 3 months to make, working like 18 hours a day. So having that would have been handy. I still would have been sheeting it all by hand hammering and hand forming and rolling all of the skin. So no, I'm not against technology. I'm just really bad with computers.
And you know what? Hanging out with Ivan and talking to Ivan a lot, he reminds me of the importance and of the value of things that are handmade.
Yeah.
Because and you start using computers and it does a lot for you. And I'm trying to also explain to him how much the software I use, you can model physics and make gears and make mechanical connections, but you still have to draw all these parts.
Yes.
And it's very similar to what he does, but he does his with templates and paper and cardboard. So having these conversations with him makes me realize how important it is to have things be hand built. But I also think there's a little bit of cross pollination.
I'm learning how important it is and how much time you can save to just let a computer.
It's not easy. It's just a different way of doing it, and then you're able to reproduce that part over and over if you need to. So there's value in both ways.
It totally is. Yeah.
I think it's important to know how to do the thing by hand. When Toyota went through a few years ago, they went through the thing with the Prius with the unintended acceleration, and I can't remember who the CEO of Toyota was at the time, but he was a direct descendant of the Toyota family. Like his last name was Toyota, and to him it was an embarrassment. Like, how did this happen? So one of the things he did was go through and kind of like looked at how their factories are set up in Japan. And he said what happened is as things went to automation, like that first generation, they still knew how to make things by hand. So if there was an issue with the machine or with the computer, with the robot, they could be like, okay, well this is how it's supposed to happen, and they could give their input into how to fix those things. Then the second generation was still pretty good because they learned directly from the guys who used to make the things with their hands. By the third generation, you just had people pushing a button, and that's when the quality. So what he did was set up all these little satellite factories where before you went in, like you're in an engine assembly facility, you're going to this little factory and you're building an engine by hand, like you're doing it by hand. So then when you have the new technology, you can add your input, like, hey, maybe we should have this, maybe size this a little bit different, or have this program do this in a different step. I was always fascinated by that story. I think it raises a great
absolutely point. I think that like my story is I started working by hand, and I switched over to doing a lot of like virtual stuff. But without the foundation, it's hard to understand like mechanical connections. Even if you're really good at a computer, if you don't know how things weld or build and connect together, it's kind of useless. So I sometimes I get a little flack for being like too computer sided, but it's like, well, I came from like building stuff by hand. I understand how that works. It's just another aspect of my abilities.
Absolutely.
That's all it is.
A lot of art is really like. Some of the stuff that I do, people say, well, it's really detailed. It's not detailed. It's this illusion of detail that you're trying to put something out there that the person that's viewing the art puts like their own input into. And with art, I think some of it is stripping down the things that aren't necessary. But to strip down the things that aren't necessary, you have to know the whole thing as a whole. Like Matisse, like some people look at it and be like, well, that's just a little line on a piece of paper, like I can do that. It's like, no, but he deconstructed the entire thing, so he knew which like 3 lines to use to get across what he was trying to get across, and he couldn't do that without having a background in doing that from nuts to bolts, like
understanding space, how people view mass, scale, all that. One of my favorite artists, who's a metal artist, his name's Richard Serra. I don't know if you've ever heard of Richard Serra, but he takes like 3-inch thick sheets of Corten, and he uses shipping tooling, like tooling made for ship hulls, and he makes these like giant undulating like sheets that are like 20 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
And they create like an architectural space. And for the longest time in the art world, everyone said, well, everything's been done with metal. Like, look, we figured everything out to do with metal. And then Sarah came along, and he just like, the way he managed space with like a single sheet, and
that's right.
It just changed the whole game. And again, it was partially hand building stuff at a small scale, but then he had to lean on heavy technology and heavy industry to produce the actual pieces. You should really look him up, man.
I will.
It's incredible. Incredible. So you're doing the matches? He's one of the reasons why I'm really excited about still being in the metal.
Right on.
Because it's so simple. Like when you find that art that is just so simple but so effective, it doesn't need a narrative, it doesn't need a story. It just like you see it and you're like,
it makes you feel something.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I totally get it.
Anytime anybody thinks everything's been done with metal before, they just
someone comes along that just blows your mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's not just with metal; it's with everything. There was people back in the '50s that said like, we know everything that we could possibly know about the world. And it's like, no, you don't. You can't. It's impossible.
3D printing comes along.
Yeah.
But here's what's great about
Material technology.
Yeah, 3D printing comes along. But then I meet like a guy like Ivan, and he's making these mechanical whales with zero technology. So it's like fun to like go to like 3D printing all the way into the spectrum and like additive technology, whatever. And then you meet Ivan, and he's like, "Yeah, I took this whale out." And I'm like, "You made that by hand?"
In my head.
Wow. It almost brings it more value because the spectrum is getting broader, and the technology is getting crazier and crazier, and automation and all this stuff. And then Ivan just like, "Oh, look at this sculpture that you made by hand."
There's that respect of like, you did that all by yourself. Yeah, I get it.
That's why I'm glad he's my friend, because I'm able to like be reminded of the value of stuff that's just makes.
Right on.
Yeah, and the same thing with Luis. Like that's a huge reason why I'm glad that he's my friend, because not only does he remind me that technology is not the enemy, but the stuff that he also does by hand. Like it's just like even when I first met him, like looking at some of his work, because we met on that show, Metal Shop Masters.
Okay.
That's really why we're here.
Okay.
But being on that Netflix show together and doing that, like just meeting him and seeing his work and seeing the stuff he could do, it was like the value for him is like in the detail and like the beauty of the work, right down to like how he's putting things together. And even when I'm in his home, it's like I see his artwork in the way that he's even just like got his home decorated. Like it's just like, man, you got a beautiful eye.
There's an insight to somebody's mind.
Yeah. When you get to spend time in their home,
for sure.
Yeah. You got a beautiful mind.
Right on. I love it.
Talented hands.
I feel the same way about you.
Oh, yeah.
I went to his place and he just was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna nonchalantly like load, sew this punching. What was it? A speed bag."
Speed bag, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know anything about leather, man. And he's like, "Check out this badass sewing machine I have." Check it out. I'm like, I know nothing about it.
Oh, that's
But see,
awesome.
but it's also a regional thing for us because I'm from Vegas, where nothing is old.
Yeah.
Anything that's old gets destroyed. And in where he's from, in Michigan, it's like they're just like swimming in old machines.
Yeah.
I'm from Detroit, which is the industrial mecca of the world. And there's the soul that old machines have.
So I think that informs our experience.
Absolutely.
He has all this old machinery and this history behind where he's from, and it's just two different worlds. But it's really fun and interesting when we get to have conversations. The stuff that I'm like, wow, look at this machine from the 90s, and he's like, look at my drill press from like 1800s or something. Just like, what?
U-bolts with these things. It's so rad. Right on. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us. Really appreciate it, getting to know you guys.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, right on. Cool. Thanks, gentlemen.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.